More tonight on the mayor of Essex facing a charge of violating the Municipal Elections Act. We speak with Ron Rogers, who lost to Larry Snively by 117 votes. Many sidewalks around Windsor could use some attention today after yesterday's snowfall. And if data obtained by CBC from the city is any indication, the sidewalks in the West End are least likely to be shoveled. Here's a live look from our tower cam. Rough conditions on the road today. OPP in Chatham-Kent responded to a two-tractor trailer collision westbound on the 401. That section of the highway is closed for the time being. And as for the weather, Colette Kennedy will give us our full forecast later tonight. Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Chris is away. We begin tonight with breaking news. Windsor Assembly Plant's third shift has an official end date. An emergency press conference was called at the local Unifor office, where the president said it's a sad day for Windsor. Let's go right to Jacob Barker, who was at the announcement. Jacob, what have you learned?
Yeah, Katerina, well, it was a very charged kind of feeling here at the Unifor building, and but it was something, this is something that has been discussed for quite some time. This third line, the work that this third line has done has been extended 4 times, and it was supposed to go until March, and then they would see how things are going and reassess. But they got the news after speaking to the company a few days ago, Unifor, that it would be ending that third line by June 29th would be the last day, and it's affecting 1,500 workers. President David Cassidy says these workers are the best in the world, and whatever product that the company chooses to bring here to Windsor, they will build it.
We are going to do everything possible for every single worker that is affected. We've continued to do it, and we're going to keep continuing to do it.
What's your message for the company?
The company is, we need new product. They know we need new product. We continue every meeting we have with them for new product. Windsor Assembly Plant is the best in the world. We have had that minivan around since 1983. We know the market's shrinking, but whatever product they bring there, we will make sure that we build it right. And everybody knows my line. If you want to build right, you build it in Windsor. And we'll continue to do that.
And yeah, that product that he's talking about is the Dodge Grand Caravan that the company has decided to discontinue, and that, of course, having a huge effect on the workers here. But it does say that those workers, anybody that is being laid off, will be considered for full-time positions, or they will try to get those workers into full-time positions wherever they are available, and also that retirement packages will be provided for those workers that are eligible.
Thanks, Jacob. This is certainly affecting a lot of people here in this city. CBC's Jacob Barker reporting live. We turn now to our coverage of a police investigation into the 2018 election in Essex. Yesterday, we learned Mayor Larry Snively was charged by the OPP for getting ineligible voters to cast proxy ballots during the election. Amy Dodge has been following this for our newsroom, and she joins me now live. Amy, yesterday we heard from people in town and from councillors, but what about the runner-up in that mayoral race back in 2018?
Right, well, that was Ron Rogers, and he lost by 117 votes to Larry Snively. He isn't surprised by the charge. He was aware of the allegations and the irregular proxy votes on the day of the election. As we know, OPP started investigating after the town said it received 2 official complaints of proxy ballots being signed without consent of the registered voter. Our newsroom here also started investigating at that time. We examined 94 proxies that were filed. 31 of them were incorrectly filled out. Yet the town clerk still signed off on those ones. Rogers says the proxy system is flawed, but he says at this point, he isn't focused on whether or not that would have affected the outcome of the election.
I don't believe it's the matter of somebody goes out to jig an election. They don't know how much they need, so it's not really the number, it's the intent. Early on, I spoke to the OPP as to what I had observed, and it took a while, but it's gotten here.
Rogers also says he wants council to reevaluate how proxy votes are handled. And a professor I spoke with from the University of Waterloo agrees with that statement. He says there are vulnerabilities in the system like proxy votes and even online voting where abuse could occur. I also asked the professor about, what does it say about the system that concerns were brought forward? And there was an investigation. Is this a sign that the system actually is working? And he says it should never have gotten to that point.
The clerk should have been paying more attention and saying there's something that doesn't tot up here and what's going on, ask some questions. It took another politician to make the inquiries.
Referring there to Councillor Sherry Bondi, she brought the irregularities forward in 2018. That prompted the investigation. Again, all of this needs to be proven in court. The mayor's lawyer, Pat Ducharme, says Larry Snively will plead not guilty, and he doesn't expect a conviction in this. Kat.
So, Amy, how common are proxy votes used during municipal elections? Is there a way to measure that?
Right, so let's take a look at this graph we did in 2018. This gives us here an idea of just how many proxy votes were cast in Essex. And I want to show this again tonight because I think it's a reminder of just how proxy votes really played more of a role in Essex than the other municipalities during that election.
It seems tonight people are asking more about how proxy votes are handled and the potential for abuse within the system. Thanks for this, Amy. Amy Dodge will stay on this story for us here at CBC. You'll likely find an unshoveled sidewalk in almost every neighborhood around Windsor after last night's snowfall. But in the city's West End, that's where you'll find by far the most complaints. CBC Windsor's Jason Vio went through the data and he brings us the details.
In Windsor's West End, you may hear more of this and less of this. That's because Ward 2 has topped the list of most complaints of unshoveled sidewalks for the last 2 years. Last year, 415 complaints, while Ward 3, the runner-up, had about half of that, and East Windsor's Ward 7, only 26.
It's concerning mostly because of the gross disparity amongst my Ward 2 versus other wards.
Fabio Costante isn't exactly sure why this is happening in his ward, but he has an idea.
A lot of students and renters may not be taking care of the properties as much as permanent residents or homeowners would.
Two of the West End streets with the most complaints are Rankin and Randolph Avenues. That's where Jasmine Jarvis lives, and she's nearly slipped a few times.
Sometimes it's really icy if it's all melted, but then it's frozen overnight. So it's not typically, you find like clear patches for maybe like a driveway, and then you'll hit like 3 driveways that haven't been shoveled at all. So it's just hit and miss.
After the snow stops falling, residents have 12 hours to clear sidewalks. Businesses have 4. And once a 311 complaint comes in, they aim to have the sidewalk cleared within 14 business days. But Jarvis thinks that's too long.
I don't think that's very helpful. The snow will be melted by then.
Even so far this year, Ward 2 is the highest with 195 complaints compared to Ward 8 in the East End with just 6, which is the lowest. To help curb the complaints in his ward, Fabio Costante says he'll look into stiffer penalties for repeat offenders. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor's water will remain free of fluoride until late next year. The reintroduction of the tooth-strengthening substance has been pushed back. NWin Utilities wants to make sure that fluoride can be safely combined with an agent in the water that prevents corrosion of pipes. The water operations manager shows us how they plan to test the water.
We run different chemical tests to find trace particles of lead in the water, and we'll have different pipe loops set up for one with no fluoride added, some with some fluoride added in different amounts, and then measure if there's any uptick in lead release in the water, which we fully expect there not to be. So this is our pipe loop test bench system that we're using to test different chemicals that we add to the water system. You'll note that these pipes look old and dirty, and that's because they were removed from our actual water distribution system. And the thought being that we want them to mimic as best as possible actual conditions in the field so that when we run our tests, they're as most accurate they could be. The water comes in from the water system, from the street to this system here, runs through our piping, it gets chemicals dosed from these barrels through these chemical pumps into the water system, then runs through the flow meters, through some valves, and then through the actual lead surfaces that we're testing. And then down to the drain. We'll have the water sit in these lead pipes And then we'll take samples out of these drain cocks to determine if there's been any lead release in the water service line while the water's been waiting inside the pipe.
The water has been fluoride-free since 2013, but councils in Windsor and Tecumseh voted to put it back in last year. Windsor Deputy Police Chief Brad Hill will be retiring soon. He's stepping aside on April 8th. This while Hill is facing a human rights complaint which was brought against him by Constable Scott Robinson.
You're only telling one side of that story, and I think that event has to be adjudicated. And at the time that it's adjudicated, we'll find out whether or not those are actual true statements. I look forward to having my opportunity for that to be adjudicated. I was hoping it would have been resolved before I retired, but it's not going to be, and it'll be some time. I am very, very confident, very happy to own my story, and I've had a very long and illustrious career, and that's just one small portion of my career, and I can tell you in my 36 years, that's the only complaint of that nature that I've ever had.
Robinson accuses Hill of bullying him for taking parental leave in 2017. In a separate matter, Robinson was recently brought before the Professional Standards Branch of the Windsor Police for a disciplinary hearing for breach of confidence. Hill says he knows nothing of the Police Act matters against Robinson, and they have nothing to do with him. One of the deputy chief positions remains vacant. The Gordie Howe Bridge is still on schedule, but that doesn't mean everything is going smoothly.
There are challenges on a daily basis with everything. And the riskiest part of a project is when you're going down. And that's where we're at right now. We're not finished going down before we start going up. We expect the project will be finished going underground essentially late this summer.
When the bridge project first started, it needed 600 parcels of land. Officials say the remaining land will be acquired by September 1st. Applications for community benefits for this year were due at the end of January. So they're currently finalizing a list of which projects will be funded. That'll happen over the next 6 months. The Gordie Howe Bridge is expected to be completed by 2024. And a look at our tower cam. We got hit with some snow last night, and we might be getting more. Colette Kennedy will give us the full forecast. And later in the program, a Windsorite in Korea. We'll speak to a teacher living out there as the coronavirus continues to spread. That's later on in the program. Welcome back. We're getting more clarity around what exactly happened to trigger a false alarm at the Pickering nuclear plant. The emergency alert was sent out across the province. As Lisa Shing tells us, the report found issues with protocols and training.
That sound woke people up across Ontario in mid-January. A message from the Ontario government about an incident at the Pickering nuclear station, scaring residents there. It was a false alarm.
I'm not happy about it, but at the end of the day, I think that we have a better system.
Today, the province released a report into what happened. It found a duty officer at the centre that issues the alerts was responsible for sending out the alert by mistake. The duty officer is supposed to test both a live alert and a training system at every shift change. On that particular day, they thought they had logged out of the live system and logged into the training one when they sent the alert. The officer immediately realized the mistake and asked supervisors how to fix it, but turns out they didn't know the protocols.
Too many people were involved and not enough of them understood what the next steps would be if there was one sent in error.
That's why there was a delay of almost 2 hours to send out this correction. The report found procedural gaps, lack of training, lack of familiarity with the system, and communication failures.
It's extremely troubling that that folks are being put into the workplace not having the training they need.
We had some gaps in what should happen next, and we have now clarified and rectified that situation.
Jones said the province has already started on many of the report's recommendations, including training staff, clearly labeling test alerts, and establishing a new procedure to make sure a message is sent out if an initial one is sent by mistake. The report also found on January 12th it was the 7th consecutive day and the 3rd consecutive 12-hour shift that duty officer worked. As a result, the province is also reviewing staffing at the Emergency Operations Centre to prevent a scare like the one in January. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
For seniors in Chatham, Kent, there's a place for them to go to exercise and get empowered. The Blenheim and Community Seniors Group has a weekly belly dancing class, and it helps the women channel parts of themselves they'd never tapped into before.
1, 2, 3, circle, and switch. When I saw that they had belly dancing, I thought, oh, I got to try that. You know, growing up, you didn't want to move your hips, you didn't want to move your breasts, but, you know, it's like suddenly you're welcome to do it. And after a certain age, who cares? So that's what I just did.
Everybody's got a Shakira trying to get out.
It's good for exercise. It exercises all parts of you, including your memory, your mind. And it's really fun when somebody asks you what you're doing down at that centre and you say, I'm doing belly dancing, and they look. I mean, it's such a surprise.
Why do you think people get so surprised when you tell them?
Because I think they're thinking of the dance of the 7 veils, you know, but it's not an entertainment for men. It's always women who do it together, and if we get a man coming through here, he usually looks very embarrassed.
Belly dance is supposed to be really inclusive. It shouldn't matter what body type or size you have, whether you're petite and really small, or larger, more voluptuous. We can celebrate our bodies no matter what shape they are. I think it's really good for women, and I see it in the older women. I see them get confidence from it, as well as the physical benefits that come with it, and they have a ton of fun. Like, what grandma gets to go out and have fun and shake their booty with their friends?
How cool is that to find that freedom at this point in your life?
Well, you know, it's like stopping wearing makeup. You know, I wear makeup once a week now. Obviously, I don't have any on today, because who cares? I let my hair go natural, and that was it.
Women are, I think in society, we tend to feel more self-conscious. Like, you know, do we let our hair grow? Do we have our makeup on? Do we let our hair go gray? You know, what clothes do we wear? And in the belly dance, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can just let that go. It's pretty fun to tell your grandkids that you're belly dancing.
Colette Kennedy joins us now for our full forecast. But Colette, first, I have to tell you, sitting in on that belly dancing class was so much fun. But my big takeaway was it's really hard. Have you ever done it? It's really hard. So much coordination.
Well, I was waiting to see your inner Shakira come out there. We never got to see that.
I know.
I bet you tried it. You just didn't show us in that piece.
I did try it. I asked them to show me a couple of things, but it was really hard. It was really, really hard. It was very awkward.
I'll tell you, the closest I ever came is when I was young, maybe 11, 12. I dressed as a belly dancer for Halloween. And Canada being Canada, it was too cold for my costume. I wore a coat, and I'd go up to the door, trick or treat, flash, here's my costume, like that. That's the extent of my belly dancing career. I love that. I love those women seem so happy. Good for them. It's amazing. So let me talk to you about our weather. I don't know how amazing you've been finding this with these strong winds and, of course, with the system that pushed through. We're still going to see some on and off flurries through here. The winds will finally, they're going to get a little bit better, but they're not really going to back off entirely until we get late Friday and into Saturday. And the cool air is going to stick around into at least a portion of the weekend, and then we're going to find temperatures are going to do that swing like they've been doing all winter, and we're going in the other direction. So this is just because of these winds coming across the lakes, driving down some of these squalls, and there is so much activity. There are so many weather advisories across the province. We're doing okay here in southwestern Ontario, but just about everywhere else, because where the snow isn't coming down in squalls, the snow that fell is blowing around. So there are all kinds of travel advisories. I do not expect you to read all of this. My point was more just to illustrate this is how bad travel is right now across southern and eastern portions of our province, and why it's a great idea to not be out on the roads if you can over the next 24 hours. So this carries on as we go through into Friday. We're still going to see at times some of these flurries coming through our skies. We won't see the worst of it. That will be to the north and to the northeast of us, but still just know that action's going to be out there, and know this is what your temperatures look like. -7 for our overnight lows. Tomorrow highs running a good 5 degrees or more below seasonal. And just very, very quickly, I'll wrap it up because I got to show you the warm-up. I don't know if you'd be wearing, belly dancing costumes without a jacket, but it's going to be getting pretty warm, Katerina.
Okay, something to look forward to. Thank you so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
Coming up, a Windsorite in Korea. We'll speak with an international teacher out there in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak. That's right after this. The province of Ontario is reporting its 6th confirmed case of the coronavirus, bringing the total number of cases in Canada to 13. Meanwhile, the virus continues to spread in countries like South Korea, and that's where we find a Windsorite who's been teaching there for years. The outbreak has led to the temporary closure of his school. He's having to teach his classes online while doing what he can to stay healthy. He spoke with the CBC's Sanjay Maru.
I think people are definitely going outside less, and they're trying to congregate in, densely populated areas much less. I also see a lot of people now wearing a mask, whereas before, usually in Korean culture, you only wear a mask when you're sick, but now people are wearing masks as precautionary measures. And most people you see when you go out are wearing masks, so that's definitely been a big change.
I understand you've been there for about 4 years now. How has the experience from these past couple of months, what's been sort of the biggest challenges you've noticed in these past couple of months compared to this 4-year stretch here?
Yeah, so you definitely get a little bit worried. Like in the past, you were a little bit worried about North Korea, but not really. But now it's definitely different. You kind of have like things in the back of your mind a little bit more like, oh, should I flee? Should I leave? But I think, keeping things in perspective, there's 1,600 cases, population of 50 million. The odds of you coming in contact with someone are pretty slim still, but you kind of worry, are we going the route of China? Is everyone going to get infected? So it's a little bit concerning. I'm not so concerned at the moment. I think that might just be my calm Canadian nature, but yeah, definitely a bit more concern for sure.
With more and more people asking to be tested for coronavirus, in parts of the world, it's becoming difficult for healthcare providers to keep up. So some countries, like South Korea, are trying something new. This is a drive-through coronavirus testing facility. More than 100 people came through this test center within hours of its opening in a local parking lot. Healthcare workers in full hazmat suits question and swab suspected patients who stay in their vehicles. Let's return now to our top story tonight. The end of the third shift at the Windsor Assembly Plant. An emergency press conference was held just before our broadcast started tonight. And we now know that as of June 29th, the plant will return to a 2-shift operation. It's part of the phasing out of the Dodge Grand Caravan. Its end date, May 22nd. And it means the loss of 1,500 jobs. We first learned about the end of the shift last year, but it was delayed multiple times. FCA says it will do what it can to place laid-off workers in full-time positions as they become available based on seniority. And Unifor says they'll be meeting with the company tomorrow. It is 6:29 p.m. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor or on social media as well. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just for Laughs Gags is up next. Have a great night.